Halo 3 is a game that I absolutely adore. It was the game that got me into Halo and one of the main reasons why I like FPS games. The game also got one of the biggest video game launches ever, and it's a game that I hope I can do justice to with this mess I like to call a review. Imagine this, it's E3 2006 and it's Microsoft's turn to showcase. And you see this. This announcement trailer confirmed to the public that Halo 3 was in fact real and in development, and not the Xbox fans' wet dream. Halo 3 had a full year of pre-production that did go a lot more smoothly than Halo 2's did. I mean, the game's development was a mess as a whole, but obviously game development isn't easy, so some small hurdles came about during it. People had some disagreements where the story should go, should Chief's face be shown, if someone was to die, who should it be, and it's interesting to see how still with some disagreements Bungie were really united as a studio, because even someone like Marty O'Donnell, who was a composer, had a say in the story department, because at first he thought the story lacked emotion and weight. As a composer of really emotional music, he must know a thing or two. Bungie truly cared about this game and they wanted to test the living shit out of it. They obviously had their own playtesters, but they also had just random people to test the game on, to make sure that the game played well. They even had people with PhDs in psychology to see how the testers felt while playing the game. And because of this, they found a lot of areas where people had problems and not fun, so they could fix them. And here is a fun little Halo 3 trivia fact. During the development of Halo 3, employees at Bungie ate over 20,000 pounds of pizza and half a ton of bananas and drank over 24 gallons of soda. I just hope not together. I'm looking at you, Sweden.
Hi, I just want to squeeze in here and apologize quickly because, this was supposed to be a joke about how some Swedish people like banana on pizza. Well, I just recently found out that some of us Finnish people like strawberries on pizza, so I just wanted to apologize because it seems that we are somehow even worse. So yeah, continue.
After Halo 3 was announced, viaducts about its development were released to the public, and they focused on things like Brutes, Forge, Theater, the announcement trailer, and filling in info for new fans. On June 11, 2007, Halo 3's marketing officially kicked off with the so-called hacking of Bungie.net forums that slowly revealed an animated comic called Cradle of Life. This was really similar to the Isle of Beasts alternative reality game marketing that happened with Halo 2. The ARG would span over a few months while giving more tasks and info to the players, mainly focusing around the Forerunners, pretty much ancient aliens, and their history around Earth. While June 11th was the official start to Halo 3's marketing, around 6 months beforehand Starry Nights was released. The half CG, half live action trailer depicts two children laying on a field when suddenly Chief gains consciousness in the middle of a desert battlefield, puts on his helmet and protects himself with a bubble shield before jumping into action. And the trailer ends with the slogan, "Finish the fight." Then on July 10th, 2007 at E3, Bungie released a gameplay trailer that excited fans even more, because it gave a more concrete picture of the game. The trailer starts with the Prophet of Truth speaking while the Halo team swells up.
That you might escape the coming fire. Your world will burn until its surface is but glass.
and we see different gameplay and cutscene moments from the game. But this wasn't all that Bungie had in store. No sir, because on 11th of September marked the beginning of the Believe campaign. It was a set of in-universe videos of veterans from the UNSC being interviewed about their time in the Human Covenant War and their connection to the Master Chief. It is emotional, chill-inducing and just really well made. Most of you probably know this campaign from the diorama of the miniature models and the absolute beautiful score playing on the background. To this day it still gives me chills and it's no doubt the best video game marketing I've ever seen. I feel like nothing can really top it. It's just a beautiful piece of media. Coincidentally, the makers of Believe were not informed that much about Halo 3 story, so there are some inconsistencies with it and the canon. There was still one big marketing drop for the game, that was Halo Landfall. It was a trilogy of short films that were drip-fed during the marketing cycle and later edited into one, directed by Neil Blomkamp. The first part is this badass readying up sequence, while the two other parts depict ODSTs trying to secure a way to rescue the Master Chief, who is on his way back to Earth. Some of the CG shows its age a little bit, mainly with the brutes.
Bish bash bosh!
But still, this short film is so good because how grounded it feels, and it's still one of the main reasons that makes me wanna have a live action depiction of Halo. A proper one, because the TV show is kinda, well, it's not good. And now, it's 25th of September, and if you thought that Halo 2's release was hyped, then you haven't seen anything yet. People were ecstatic to get their hands on this game. Probably the biggest gathering of people were at New York, where people all over the US showed up for a game's release. Even Bill Gates was there to sign copies of the game, and these two dudes duking it out in PS3 and Xbox costumes. Of course the Xbox beats up the PlayStation and abducts him. This release was all over the news and people had fun. It's sad that I was too young and was still developing brain cells, so I didn't have a chance to experience this when it happened. Because game releases just aren't like this anymore. Mainly because of mostly digital media, lack of midnight releases, and of course the pandemic is still going around, and probably a new one on the horizon. Please don't, but I wish that I could experience something like this someday. Believe and Finish the Fight are two really important themes for the game and its marketing. They encapsulate what the game is about. It's about believing in the Master Chief and his legacy, and his journey to finish the fight against the Covenant once and for all. It was at the time supposed to be the end of his story. Then on 11th of November 2014, Halo 3 released on the Xbox One with the Master Chief Collection to a new generation of gamers, and again on 14th of July 2020, Halo 3 released on the PC version of the Master Chief Collection for a completely new audience, something Dexter would have predicted 12 years beforehand.
Winning.
Halo 3's gameplay is a sensible continuation of Halo 2's with some upgrades. I mean, what do you expect, it's a sequel. One big upgrade from Halo 2 is the level design, and while Halo 2's levels play well and look nice, they are quite linear, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it was a huge downgrade from Halo Combat Evolved's open level design. This time Halo 3's levels are a great mix of linear and more open levels. There are even some small flanking routes to take. These larger levels also free up a lot of space for huge spectacle battles where you fight against multiple tanks or even scarabs, which are a proper fight this time, compared to Halo 2 scripted sequences where you just jump on and kill the crew. Now you can shoot the legs to cripple the scarab, then jump on board to destroy the generator inside, but be quick about it because the scarab will explode and turn you into a crisp. Something the more open level design complements as well is the vehicle combat. It just feels so good in this game. The vehicles handle and feel great, and the friendly AI is perfectly aggressive towards the enemies, even though they are still pretty dumb in general. Not to say that the previous Halo titles didn't have good vehicle combat, but this time it's just a lot more refined, and with the great level design and larger battles, the vehicle combat shines through. Yeah, you can go in guns blazing armed with a rocket launcher, but going in with a Warthog with fully strapped marines is just a lot more fun. The vehicles themselves haven't changed that much, except the Spectre from Halo 2 was removed, and 2 new brute vehicles were added, the Chopper and the Prowler. Not only does the Chopper have a powerful cannon, but it also has a big saw wheel that, if in contact with another vehicle, can do some serious damage, so you better avoid head-to-head collisions with this thing. The Prowler, on the other hand, is kinda like the brute Warthog. It can carry multiple people and it has a cannon on top. And the UNSC also got 2 new vehicles. The Hornet, because they didn't really have a flyable vehicle in the previous games, so it kinda balances the playing field with the Banshee. And the Transfer Warthog that lets you pick up your mates for a road trip. Almost forgot about the Mongoose, a nifty 2-seater that goes fast and at times can be easily flipped over. But hey, it balances things out with its speed. On a side note, you know that trope in video games where red barrels explode? Well, we kind of have that with fusing coils and plasma batteries. They are often placed at tactical points in campaign missions or multiplayer maps where you can use them for your advantage if an enemy is nearby them. Now, the weapon sandbox is interesting. The game is back using projectile shooting mechanics just like CE, so you need to lead your shots. And there are only a couple of new weapons and 2 new grenade types. Spike grenades that stick to surfaces and then detonate with a spiky explosion, and the firebomb that is a futuristic Molotov cocktail. The Gravity Hammer is a new melee weapon that sends things flying when hitting with it, and it's quite useful at taking out multiple enemies at a close range. The Spiker is a SMG-like weapon that shoots spikes really fast. It is an absolute beast when dual wielding and it does more melee damage as well. Then there is the Mauler that is pretty much a revolver shotgun, and while it isn't as powerful as the normal shotgun, it definitely isn't useless. And all of these are brute weapons that do fit the brutality of the brutes really well.
Get them to the extraction point.
The human weapons mostly stayed the same. The old Magnum is back, thank god, and so is the assault rifle that was completely absent from the previous game, because it got kind of replaced by the battle rifle and the SMG. The BR is still here as well, and it's still a utility weapon that probably gets the most use. But there are 2 new additions, and those are the Spartan Laser, which is a charging weapon that fires a devastating laser, and it completely fucks up the vehicle sandbox, but I will get to that a little bit later, so stay tuned. And the flamethrower that was partially scrapped from Combat Evolved, but it is here now, and who doesn't like pretending like they're Ripley from Alien? A welcome change from Halo 2 is the ability to dismount plasma and normal turrets like the Chad you are. I mean, it just makes sense considering that you are a super soldier after all, and I'd say it's quite balanced. The turrets have unlimited ammo when on tripod, but when carried around it's limited, and so is your mobility because it slows you down significantly. But oh boy, these 2 aren't the only ones that work like this, because there is the addition of the missile pod, which kinda takes after Halo 2's lock-on rocket launcher, so it locks onto enemy vehicles and rapid fires small missiles which can destroy a vehicle quite fast. By the way, now that I mentioned the brutes, they completely replaced the elites. Well, not completely, but they replaced them as enemies because of what happened in Halo 2, where the elites pretty much split off from the Covenant. And here the brutes do kind of fill the void that the elites would have left behind, but not quite, because the brute shields won't recharge unlike elites, which made them an equal foe. But now if their shields go down, they are an easy target. But one special thing they do, just like in Halo 2, is that they sometimes charge after you after losing their shields. Speaking of enemies, the Flood make a comeback again, and I have to say this time they are a lot more fun to fight, for the most part. Now they go down a lot more easily when meleeed, and there's even a new form of Flood, which is the pure form, which can come in 3 different forms. There's the tank form, which is this large hunter-esque enemy that takes a lot more damage than the other forms, and also does a lot more melee damage. And a side note, when I was a kid I always thought that these were infected hunters, which obviously doesn't make any sense once I learned more about the lore, because hunters are piles of worms. But also because pure forms aren't infected, they are, as the name says, pure flood forms, they are only biomass. Then there is the Stalker form, which surprisingly enough isn't as frightening as Stalker fans, even though both of them try to jump on you any chance that they get. And lastly, there's the range form, which I'd say is the biggest threat from them all, because they climb up somewhere and try to snipe you, but thankfully they aren't as annoying as sniper jackals. I don't think that the Flood is a bad enemy faction in the previous games. I've seen a lot of people say that the Flood should never return because the worst levels in Halo have been Flood levels. But I feel like it's more of a combination of two different factors. The Flood is a zombie-like swarming enemy, so there are nuisance in tighter levels, i.e. the library in Halo Combat Evolved and Cortana in Halo 3, which I will get to later. But for the most part, when the parts of the levels are a little bit less cramped, they aren't that bad, and Halo 3 also adds more variety to them. Something Halo has had since day one, except Halo 2's campaign, are power-ups, like invisibility and overshields, that do return in the immediate activation pickups as in the previous games, except only in multiplayer. In the campaign, however, the old school power-ups are replaced by activate when you want equipment, and in addition to those there are a bunch of new and fun toys to play around with. There is the bubble shield that is a really useful sphere cover that covers you from all the directions. The power grenade is pretty much an EMP ball that takes out shields and overcharges vehicles. The trip mine, well, it's a mine, so that's kinda self-explanatory. You step on mine go boom. The portable gravity lift is a really fun gadget that lets you get to higher places and it adds more variability to the game. The radar jammer just makes your minimap confused. The flare is just around flashbang, and most of the time it's only a hindrance to the player themselves. The regenerator heals you, but I wouldn't trust the ominous green glow.
Lung cancer!
Deployable cover is a goated equipment because it protects you from the front while letting you shoot enemies through it. Obviously it's kinda cheap, but I'm not complaining. Invincibility makes you impervious to damage and can be gotten by killing a brute chieftain before it can use it, so it works as a small little prize. You don't really bump into the automated turret almost at all, it's only in the last level of the game. It's like an automated sentinel beam, so it can be useful, I just wish that it would have been on more levels. Cloaking is the good old invisibility that lets you sneak up on your enemies or bypass them completely, because nobody can see you. In real life this is considered a VPN, and no, this isn't a sponsored segment. What do you think, I have like 20 subscribers? By now you must have noticed that in this video there is a mix of PC and Xbox 360 gameplay, and that is because I played this game 4 times. 3 times on PC and once on the Xbox One backwards compatibility, and I just wanna talk about the differences between the experiences. While playing the OG version on the console was really nostalgic, it definitely shows its age, and I don't mean that in a graphical sense, because even at 1080p, the game looks good on PC, it's just the resolution on the console that muddies things down, but it's just mainly how the game feels. Obviously this might not be the fairest of comparisons considering that the OG game came out in 2007 and the PC version came out in 2020, so technology has progressed quite a lot since. But the OG version just feels a little bit sluggish compared to the newer version because of the 30 FPS cap, and that in tandem with the controller just creates a different playing style. It just plays a lot slower on console, and because of that I noticed myself dying a lot more in places where I normally wouldn't. Also I was picking up a lot of different weapons than on PC, and I was playing on normal on both. Now, like I said, it's not a fair comparison, and I don't mean that the OG version is bad. Just wanted to point something out, considering that I haven't played the game on console for a long time. Because the game just plays a lot better on PC, even though there are still some problems on the PC version, like a weird flickering effect on weapons because they can't adjust according to the shadows. And this has been a problem since launch. But a level like Cortana feels like a breeze on PC compared to the OG version, and like I said, these games were released with like 13 years between them, so let's not compare apples to oranges. Hey, who likes playing with friends? I know I do, at least I would if I wasn't a lonely fuck, but I digress. Co-op isn't anything new to Halo. Halo CE had it, Halo 2 had it as well, both online and local split screen. But Halo 3 on the other hand added to that. Now the max player size for online co-op is 4, and guess what? Now you aren't playing as Chief clones like in a weird twin convention, but all the players play as different characters. Players 1 and 2 are Chief and Arbiter, and players 3 and 4 are 2 elites named... Okay, I'm not gonna even try to pronounce those. Either way, co-op small upgrades were a really nice addition, and I just have really fond memories of just sitting back with my friends and going through Halo 3's campaign together. And speaking of the campaign... Quite often I see a lot of people argue which Halo has the best story, Halo 2 or Halo 3, and while Halo 3 is my favorite game of all time, Halo 2's story is objectively better. The movie-like storytelling and cinematography paired with great voice acting and writing in cutscenes just elevate that game to another level. And sadly, Halo 3 is a small downgrade from some of those things. Not bad by any means, but still a downgrade nonetheless, and considering that this game is still beloved by so many, it's not a huge one. Halo 3's story starts with a touching narration from Cortana, where she talks about how she chose to be with the Master Chief, and we see him fall down to earth. Then he is promptly found by our good old pal Johnson and his team, and it seems that the fall dealt with him. But you need something a lot harder to deal with the Master Chief.
We're not leaving him here.
Yeah, you're not.
Crazy fool. Why do you always jump?
Chief is reminded that Cortana decided to stay behind, but he isn't all alone in this game because a familiar face shows up.
Chief, wait! The Arbiter's with us! Come on now. Got enough to worry about without you two trying to kill each other.
Were it so easy.
Yeah, luckily Chief hesitated or the Arbiter would be missing a part of his head by now. So the elites and humans have worked up an alliance to fight the Covenant. But one thing I have to say about the Arbiter in this is that his position got a bit of a switch. In Halo 2 he was a secondary main character equal to Chief, but now he is essentially a sidekick. He still has his own story arc that comes to an end nicely, but it almost feels like wasting Keith David's talent. You advance through the jungle in Sierra 117, and apparently this first section of the game even impressed Hideo Kojima simply because of the foliage, but sadly he wasn't able to see more of it. Also, this is the first time you're introduced to these mini Cortana cutscenes, and while from a storytelling standpoint they show how Cortana isn't doing well in the Greyman's captivity and that the Chief is powerless to do anything about it, while she mumbles on about something cryptic, from a gameplay standpoint they are annoying as hell. They slow you down to a crawl and just completely yank you out of the gameplay. Luckily they only happen when you aren't in any danger, but if this just happened without affecting your movement, they probably would have been received a lot better. Johnson's Pelican is shut down and he is promptly captured. There is this small mechanic where, because the cutscenes are in-game, if you decide to skip it you can still see it happening real time, which is pretty neat. You save him and are taken to the next level, Crow's Nest. Chief has almost always been this beacon of hope, so it's nice to see the Marines get excited after seeing Chief arrive.
Spartan? For real? You better not be. Oh man, he's here. We're gonna be
Where did you find him?
We meet Miranda Keys again, and it seems that the humanity isn't doing so hot against the Covenant. Lord Hood gives us a briefing that is then interrupted by the Prophet of Truth, and this time he is voiced by a different person. In Halo 2 he was voiced by Michael Winscott, and because he didn't want to reprise his role, he was replaced by Terrence Stamp. And he does a great job here, but the character of Truth also changed. In Halo 2 he was this collected, manipulative liar with a cult-like facade, but now it's almost like the facade is the only thing left. And it almost makes him a one-dimensional villain. Not quite, because in the last half of the game he kinda shows his slimy side a little bit, but I feel like his character kinda regressed here. Obviously no hate to the voice actor, he made it with the cards that he was dealt, and for the record the speech that he gives here is memorable.
The
This is but glass, and not even your demon will live to creep, blackened from its hole to mar the reflection of our passage, the culmination of our journey. For your destruction is the will of the gods, and I am their instrument.
Commander Keyes orders people to evacuate, and we get this line.
Ma'am, squad leaders are requesting a rally point. Where should they go?
To war.
While I think that Halo 3's writing is great, this is the most early 2000s nonsensical one-liner in the whole game. I understand where they were going with this, but it is just a non-answer. At least Chief's good old "I need a weapon" line felt more fitting and meaningful. But when a character is asking a direction and you answer "to war", it just doesn't seem sincere at all. Next you gear up and help people evacuate and kinda go back and forth a couple of times. And there's this one section where I love this foreshadowing. Before you actually bump into the drones, you can actually hear them in the vents.
Hey, you hear that?
Yeah, and I don't like it.
You know, it's just a small detail, but I like these type of small hints in games. And this is the point where Halo 3 Sandbox kinda opens up more. For example, there's this part where you're tasked with rearming a bomb, and you can either go in guns blazing, or you can pick up a cloak and surprise the enemy. And it's great how even just the equipment can make a linear level like the Crow's Nest have a lot more ways to engage the enemy. After rearming the bomb, you escape by an elevator just barely, with another chilling Cortana scene quoting the Gravemind. In the level Tsavo Highway, Chief comes to his senses at a hangar with wounded marines all over the place. You take a Warthog and drive towards the city of Voi. This is the point where the levels open up more, and not only in a vehicle gameplay department, but also in a visual sense and environmental storytelling. Part of the level is completely scrapped with space elevator pieces, destruction everywhere, and at one point a huge Covenant cruiser flies over your head. This kind of stuff just adds to the scenery and makes this feel like a bigger battle, even though it doesn't really affect gameplay. The next mission, the Storm. You get to Voi to stop the truth and more vehicle combat ensues. You take down some anti-air raids and even a Scarab that is actually a proper fight this time. You move forward in this factory complex and get your first contact with the Hunters. But they aren't a match for you. Your next and last target is a massive anti-air cannon, and it's easily taken down. Thanks to that, the UNSC fleet moves in to destroy the key ship, but unfortunately they are too late and the portal to the Ark opens. But that isn't their only problem.
Sir, new contact slipping in.
What is it? More brutes?
Worse.
In Floodgate, the Flood returns, and this level kinda suffers from two betrayal syndrome, because in CE, the two betrayals was almost just assault on the control room, but backwards, and now the Floodgate is almost the Storm, but backwards. The more darker and infected atmosphere makes the level feel a little bit different, but not enough. This level does turn into a darker direction with a marine having a breakdown because the Flood took control of his bodies.
Sliding around beneath their skin. Oh. And then they got up, started to talk. Oh God, their voices. Oh God, no.
The Flood have always emanated this fear in Halo, and this time is no exception. It is just a little bit sad that no other Halo has had the horror quite cranked up like CE. The Elite show up to help, and with them the ship Shadow of Intent, which is also a banger of a band. The ship is governed by Halfjaw, who makes a return, and you also find out that the shipwreck you're heading to explode has Cortana on it, so Chief, the huge simp that he is, goes after his virtual lady. By the way, it is really refreshing seeing elites and humans working together. I mean, sure, their species have killed millions of humans in a galactic genocide, but they have a common goal. It just gives this sense of working with the enemy against a greater enemy. You get to the crash ship and get contacted by the Gravemind, and it also completely yonks you out of the game. I mean, D. Bradley Baker reprises his role and the Gravemind's lines are as poetic as ever, but do we really need more pointless slowdowns?
Do not be afraid. I am peace. I am salvation.
So let's move on. Chief finds Cortana and our friendly neighborhood lightbulb Guilty Spark, and he is the same scheming piece of shit as always.
You tried to kill Cortana. You tried to kill me.
Protocol dictated my response. She had the activation index, and you were going to destroy my installation. You did destroy my installation. Now I have only one function, to help you, Reclaimer, as I always should have done.
Love this little guy. He promises to help the chief and they escape just in time before the glassing commences. We find out that it's only a recorded message by Cortana and that she has a way to stop the flood that is on the other side of the portal, and this creates some bickering between the parties. While the elites and humans are working together, they clearly don't see eye to eye, because of the war. Lord Hood wants to stay behind and defend the Earth with every last breath, while Half-Jaw wants to go through the portal because he thinks that the humanity is doomed either way. But Chief clearly trusts Cortana full-heartedly. By the way, if you needed any more proof that Johnson and Arbiter are badasses, both of them just walk by their counterparts and take their equipment, while elites and marines look completely baffled. The plan commences and they fly through the portal. Then Chief with some ODSTs are flown to the Ark in a Pelican while escaping a badass dogfight in the skies. Once you get to the Ark, you can notice that you might be further away from home than you originally thought. Even the ODSTs with you allude to this.
Check it out, in the sky. Is that...
Hey, focus.
Terminals are introduced during this level and they are a nice little callback to Bungie's past during their marathon days. These interfaces tell the story of the Forerunners and their war against the Flood. It's a really interesting read and it adds some nice insight to the game's universe. You fight some more Covenant while helping some Marines on your way, and after destroying some anti-air raids, the cavalry comes in the form of Forward Unto Dawn, and this moment never ceases to amaze me. The size of the ship, shit and dust flying everywhere, and the music together create this amazing but small set piece that sends chills down your spine. Halo 3 does these in-game cinematic events really well. You get a tank and drive to a map room where Guilty Spark violates a man.
Oracle!
Little bastard stung me!
And talking about violations, I don't know where I'm going with this, but now that I got your attention, the Ark is a level where the vehicle combat truly shines. Whether you're driving in a Warthog, a Brawler, or a fucking tank. It's just a ton of fun, going against other vehicles, infantry or a Scarab. I feel like this level just captures Halo's vehicle combat perfectly. Now where was I? Guilty Spark violating a man, a brute taking a piss, oh yeah, you get to the map room and find out that the Ark is outside of the Milky Way. And you pinpoint Root's location so you quickly go and get evac and go after him. There is also this small set piece where you can just either kill all the brutes immediately or duel with the chieftain, which is a pretty fun and completely optional detail. Next up is the Covenant, where the starting cutscene definitely has some Silent Cartographer vibes.
Generators, and the barrier will fall?
A small section, yes.
Good enough. Johnson, drop the chief at the first generator, then head to the third. The elites will punch right down the middle.
Roger that.
Charlie, Foxtrot. Tower 1 approach is active AAA.
After almost crashing, your job is to go and deactivate 1 tower out of 3 that will get rid of the shields so you can go and get truth. The Arbiter and Johnson take out the 2 other ones. The tower's controls are protected by a brute chieftain and his pack. Chief deactivates the tower and so does the Arbiter, but Johnson doesn't because he is occupied. So you have to do it for him, the lazy bastard. You go and fly to the second tower and take out its brute defenses. You deactivate the tower and the shields go down. But then something unexpected happens.
Now, Prophet, your end has come.
High Charity. By the gods, brace for impact!
So the Flood have now compromised the Ark somehow, and the situation escalates. On your way to the Citadel where Truth is hiding, you take out 2 scarabs and man, the music just hits here like a truck. And we see again how Halo 3's freedom in level design encourages different playing styles. Do you go in with a Hornet and destroy the scarabs from above while they're distracted by marines below, or go in with a Warthog and act like an annoying mouse while driving around them? You go into the Citadel and get another Cortana scene, where she also appears on the screens on the sides of the hallway. You know, it's nothing special, but it's a nice little detail and most likely a little bit of foreshadowing something at the end of the level. Also, it seems that Johnson has a real knack for getting captured. While he's talking shit to the Prophet, Miranda comes to save him, but there's a difficult choice to make here. Because the Covenant needs a human to activate the ring, this rescue attempt turns into a murder-suicide attempt, which is stopped by the slimy Prophet by ending the Keyes bloodline. First we lost Captain Keyes and now Miranda, both strong leaders that met their tragic ends. Now that the Prophet has started the process of activating the rings, the Chief and the Arbiter find an unlikely ally in the Flood. You storm towards the control platform while the Flood assists you, which is kinda awful and kinda badass at the same time. I mean, everyone is fucked if the rings activate, so as they say, the enemy of your enemy is still your enemy, but with benefits. Arbiter getting his revenge is a great ending, or technically a midpoint to his character arc. The Prophets royally fucked his species and opened his eyes to their lies, and like I said in the beginning of this section, his character is a small downgrade from Halo 2's, but not a huge one. He just isn't a second main character the way he was before, because the game's main focus is on Chief this time, and the Arbiter is left on the sideline. But his badass line before ending the Prophet makes up for that.
I shall become a god! You will be food, nothing more. No! I am truth! The voice of the Covenant! Asshole, you must be silenced.
Oh, and obviously there is a trap by the Gravemind because the Alliance was short-lived after dealing with the shared threat. Only Johnson makes an escape, so you need to backtrack to where you came in and jump into a vent that is guiding you with a blue light. After dropping down, Chief notices that the guiding blue light was Cortana. You know, there definitely is an allegory here somewhere, and we see what her plan is. A replacement ring for the one that Chief destroyed, that could take out the Flood and destroy the Ark. But they need Cortana to activate it. Cortana is the library level of Halo 3 in the sense that for the most part you're completely alone walking through claustrophobic hallways while hordes of Flood come after you, while you get taunted by the Gravemind and Cortana. This level is definitely more horror adjacent, but not as much as something like 343 Guilty Spark, but close. There is also ominous environmental storytelling here, like skeletons of consumed elites and dead bodies everywhere. You walk through the now infected hallways of High Charity and its butthole doors. And I know I'm not the only one to make that joke, but just come on, look at those things. Chocolate starfish my ass. The more closer you get to Cortana, the more furious and hysterical the Grey Mind and Cortana get.
And her torment and my own!
You get to the room where Cortana is kept, and you break her free, one hit at a time.
You found me. But so much of me is wrong. Out of place. You might be too late.
You know me. When I make a promise.
You keep it.
This is my favorite cutscene in the whole game. Maybe, just maybe in the whole series. Cortana being almost devoid of hope and possibly broken after being in the captivity of the Gravemind. And Chief being able to cheer her up by showing that he keeps his promises, just shows the special bond between them. And the somberness of this cutscene elevates that. And this is a cutscene that makes me think the opposite when people say that Chief is just an empty vessel for the player. During gameplay I agree, but in cutscenes like this he shows personality. A subdued one considering that he is a Spartan, but still. During the game he shows worry towards Cortana and it shows even though he is wearing a helmet. But he's also relaxed around her once he sees that she's fine, and even jokes a little.
Got an escape plan?
Thought I'd try shooting my way out. Mix things up a little.
I wouldn't exactly call that an empty vessel. Chief definitely has character, and I'm kind of tired of people saying that he doesn't.
Just keep your head down. There's 2 of us in here now, remember?
Man, gotta love the callbacks. So the Grey Mind is pissed and you backtrack in order to escape. You destroy some generators to get rid of the High Charity once and for all.
I've got a friendly contact.
Oh, who could that be? Of course the Arbiter comes in with a clutch. Chief, Arbiter and Cortana just barely escape and head to the replacement ring. And just a side note, it's great to see how the Arbiters and Chief's camaraderie develops in the game, even though it's a relationship of a few words. In the beginning they were at each other's throats, literally, but now the Arbiter went a long way to help the Chief, and he also wants to see the mission finished together, even though his original mission pretty much came to an end already. The next and the last level, fittingly named Halo, is something familiar. You advance through snowy terrain until you arrive at a nostalgic structure. You ascend the building and at the top there is a shortwave defense which feels like padding, but it's the only one in the game and it isn't that long, so we'll let it pass. Afterwards Johnson joins you and man, the trilogy came a full circle, didn't it? Once you get to the control room, Johnson goes to activate the ring, but Guilty Spark had other plans because the ring isn't ready yet and our heroes don't really care about that, so he tries to put an end to it.
Premature firing will destroy the Ark.
Deal with it.
Will destroy this installation. Unacceptable! Unacceptable! Absolutely unacceptable!
This is the second time Guilty Spark has betrayed the Chief. He really has to stop trusting floating blue balls and giant space Venus traps. Johnson being wounded and the Arbiter being thrown out of the room means only you and Spark are left, and a boss fight ensues. It's a fairly simple one, definitely a little bit more thought out than the Tartarus farm from Halo 2. You can pretty much only kill him with the Spartan laser, and it's really hard to get killed by him. But it's most likely supposed to be more of a climax fight instead of a mind-blowing final boss fight. You know, it's not like we're playing Metal Gear Rising here. After taking out Spark, Johnson unfortunately dies. He has been there since CE and because of more involvement in Halo 2 and 3, his death feels more personal.
Don't ever let her go. Send me out with a bang.
Spark's betrayal, while not surprising given his track record, feels really last minute and not from a writing standpoint. Everything was going so well until he realized that he completely misunderstood their plan of firing the ring. And from his point of view, he really wanted to help the chief and the gang, but because they were going to destroy another ring, he couldn't let that happen. I'm not trying to say that he was in the right, just saying that this time his intentions weren't as malicious as last time. You know, where he left out a nitsy bitsy genocidal detail about the rings so Chief would activate it. Chief activates the ring and you need to escape, like haul ass really fast. Now you have to deal with sentinels in addition to the flood, but they aren't that bad. Cortana realizes that the only way out is with the Forward Unto Dawn, the ship that Johnson arrived with. You find Johnson's Warthog and start driving and racing against the clock like the racist you are. Of course there had to be a Warthog run, which definitely adds to the urgency of the situation. Everything is blowing up and falling apart around you. Also, another fun trivia fact is that the area that you're driving around in is a copy of the Silent Cartographer Island from CE. Yeah, it doesn't look like it, but the layout is the same, which is a nice callback. While the driving section is fun, and I hate using this word, epic. Okay, let's see, are there any synonyms for epic? Let's see, let's use glorious. While the driving section is fun and glorious, sometimes the sentinels and flawed carrier forms can flip you over and that just completely stops the momentum. I understand that there needs to be some sort of obstacles, but it's as annoying as in CE when that happened. The ring is about to blow, but you jump into the ship just in time. The Arbiter goes into the cockpit while Chief almost falls out. He and Cortana console each other, possibly for the last time, and the ring explodes.
We'll make it.
It's been an honor serving with you, John.
Then we got back to Earth where we find out that the Arbiter was the only one who made it. Captain Hood and Marines are holding a memorial service for the fallen of the war, that including Chief, who is presumed dead. This is a somber ending. The war against the Covenant was won and the Flawed were eradicated for now. But this victory took its price, lost comrades and heroes, but their legend won't be forgotten. Now, there is the legendary ending that shows a default after completing the MCC version on any difficulty, but it shows that Chief and Cortana actually survived. Chief goes to a cryopod and tells Cortana to wake him when she needs him, and they finally get the rest that they deserve after all the things that they've gone through. Halo 3 story, while being a bit of a downgrade from Halo 2, still does well what it set out to do, which is to finish Halo 2's story because pretty much everything that happened in Halo 3 was originally planned for Halo 2, so that is why it feels like a really proper continuation to the story and a great finish line as well. Especially the last mission that brings the trilogy to a beautiful end, like a full circle. I mean, the last mission is called Halo and it has a similar snowy biome and a control room like CE. Guilty Spark betrays you once again. There's even a room straight out of the Assault on the Control Room. And the Warthog Run part of the map is a callback to the Silent Cartographer. Also, the Warthog Run and escaping a blowing up ring just at the nick of time is a perfect roundup for the game while calling back to the first one in the series. The ending, while closing up Chief's story, still leaves some room for his return, which did end up happening, but that is a story for another time. And while the Cortana and Greymine mini cutscenes are annoying from a gameplay standpoint, they add tension to the story, and especially in the Cortana level, the lines are really memorable. So they aren't completely useless, they are just annoying. Halo's multiplayer has always been this hooking arena experience where map control is king and everybody gets equal starting weapons. It's a level playing field which Halo 3 builds upon nicely. This time the game works on new hardware on the Xbox 360, and with that came an upgraded version of Xbox Live, and matchmaking became easier. A lot of customization updates also came to Halo 3. Now you could choose between Elite and Spartan player models just like in Halo 2, but both of them could be customized a lot more than in the previous games. Like shoulders, chest, helmet and legs. The Master Chief Collection version of the game got some customization upgrades as well. When the game came out on PC, we got Season Recon in the game's Battle Pass-like unlock system that adds some new customization to the game.
Hi, it's me again, so I actually misremembered. The Season Recon didn't actually come out with Halo 3, it actually came out with Halo 3 ODST, but it still had some Halo 3 customization items, so it technically counts, but yeah, I just want to fix that because I misremembered completely. So yeah, carry on.
Like weapon skins, visors and armor pieces. And the great thing about them is that, well, they're free, but also if you want a legacy experience you can just turn the custom content off in the settings, so it can't really distract you. But I personally like them, it's fresh content to an old game, so it's refreshing. Even some of the armors that don't fit the art style of the game at all are a neat addition. Some really good additions to Halo introduced in 3 that aren't really multiplayer specific, but are connected with it are Forge and Theater. Forge would let you build and customize maps that paid way to custom games, fun community made game modes and maps that offered a lot more laid back gaming experience with friends or randoms. Me and my friends also used to mainly screw around in Forge back in the day, and it definitely adds another level to Halo's creativity and longevity. Theater would let you review multiplayer matches or even campaign mission playthroughs. This tool also really helped with Halo machinimas that were also a thing before that, thanks to Red vs Blue, but now almost anyone could do them, and the addition of these two features brought Halo's community even more closer. Now, how does the multiplayer gameplay hold up? Well, it's really fun. Controlling maps, power-ups and power weapons is great as always, with a great map selection to choose from, and I'd say the game is a little bit more skill based because like in CE the guns are projectile based, so you need to lead your shots if you wanna be an efficient killing machine. The MCC version is skill based, but not in the most enjoyable way. The game uses mild skill based matchmaking that means the better you do in a match, the more challenging players you get in the future to match your performance from previous matches. Which is essential in competitive, but when you just wanna relax and play for fun in casual playlists, it is annoying when games slowly start changing into sweatfests where the other team might be completely wrecking yours, or vice versa. And this a lot of the time leads to rage quitting, which is a huge problem in the Master Chief Collection, and in some modern games that have skill-based matchmaking as well. The funny thing is, this wasn't really a problem in the OG version or even in the original MCC release. They added this when the game came to PC, maybe to make the game more balanced for a new platform or for crossplay. But it just sometimes sucks all the enjoyment out of a casual match when you just wanna have fun with people who are roughly around your skill group and not worry about facing against a team full of crackhead esports pros every time you do well in a match. Either way, let's move on. The maps flow really well all the way from normal arena maps to big team battle maps, Valhalla being my personal favorite. There are even some remade maps from older titles, most notably Avalanche, Blackout, Last Resort, Cold Storage and Heretic, which is a map I don't really know how to feel about because it just seems to be Ring Around the Rosie, the map. When the map packs released, they brought even more fun content to the table, some of them being ones I already mentioned. The MCC version of the game also got a couple of new maps added to the game from Halo Online, which was a Russian-only modified PC port of Halo 3 that had maps made for just that game. The project was discontinued, but Icebox and Waterfall were later added to Halo 3 with some updates. And Icebox is an obvious map remake from Halo 2's turf. Halo being a shooter, the weapon sandbox is the most important part, and I wouldn't say that it's perfectly balanced multiplayer wise, but everything can be useful even if all the weapons aren't always used. Plasma weapons take out the shields and other weapons dish out the damage. And the anti-vehicle and power weapons balance things out between the players, vehicles and map control. And now that I mentioned the anti-vehicle weapons, you probably remember that I mentioned the Spartan laser in the gameplay section of this video and how it fucks with the sandbox. Well, it decides to commit defenestration to the vehicle combat balance, which is a fancy way of saying it throws it out the window. Because most of the time it's just a one-shot kill on most of the vehicles. And you might say, but the rocket launcher is also a one-shot kill most of the time. And you'd be right, but the rocket launcher is a projectile-based weapon, so you need actual skill to hit anything if it isn't close by. But the Spartan laser says fuck that, and literally lasers things. It is just point and shoot. You can just snipe vehicles with it from afar without taking into consideration the movement of the vehicle, It just screws with the balancing, and the only downside it tries to balance with is the charge up time, but it just isn't enough. At least it's fun to use, but still it's quite unfair. Now, the BR is still the most used weapon in tandem with the snipers and the shotgun. Everything else is essentially in between additions, and this plays really well with Bungie's golden triangle: weapons, grenades and melee. This is something I didn't really talk about in my other reviews, but it is one of Halo's multiplayer cornerstones. Now think about every single multiplayer match in Halo and what do you do in all of them? Shoot for damage, use grenades and melee to destroy shields, or finish enemies off, and not in the sexual way. It is genius actually. This type of balanced gameplay loop is quite unique compared to other mainstream shooters, and it still works even though some people say that dual wielding ruined it. Even though if you have two weapons and either melee or throw a grenade, you drop one of them, so it doesn't really take away from the original idea. Though the dual wielding balance is quite far away from perfect. I feel like something that affects the triangle more than dual wielding is the equipment sandbox, and not even in a bad way, it just adds to it. You can think of it as a new point to the triangle, but then it's more of a golden square and that just doesn't sound as cool. The equipment are balanced really well and they are a big part of Halo 3's sandbox, and for the most part they work the same as in the campaign, the invisibility and overshields being the exception because they work as normal power-ups. You just walk through them and they activate. The difference is how the equipment is played a little bit differently and they require a little bit more tactics because of their neutrality. For example, you can throw down a bubble shield to protect yourself from enemies, but the enemies can also push you out of the shield to essentially make it their cover. Or you could throw down an energy drain to make enemies weaker by getting rid of their shields. But it will affect anyone it comes to contact with, including you and your teammates, and that is what makes these equipment neutral. They aren't one-sided, which makes you think more in the midst of battle when and how to use them. Unlike COD, where you can just get a kill streak and just decimate the enemy team while scoring your team more points, without affecting yourself or your teammates. Now that is just an overly simplified way of looking at it, and I'm not trying to say that COD's kill streaks are worse by any means, just making a comparison, so calm down. Halo 3's multiplayer was definitely the golden years of Halo, both in casual and competitive scenes. Competitive tournaments or esports were the shit. Just pro players duking it out and doing really impressive plays while competing for prize pools. But I won't be focusing on that because I'm not that great myself and I don't have the mental gymnastics to understand the ins and outs of esports. For the casual side of things, nothing really helped more than voice chat, both in-game and party chat. Now sadly I don't really have that much experience with these because I didn't really play games online when Halo was at its peak. But all the stories and clips you can find online of people making the teamwork with coordination or a lot of shit talking in pre-game lobbies and during the match is a legendary part of gaming history that we don't sadly get that much nowadays.
Hey, I'ma fuck your mama, bitch! Hey, I fucked your mom last night, bitch!
Mainly because of other voice chat alternatives like Discord and anti-toxicity mindsets, which for the most part I agree with. I mean, who wants their gaming session be tainted by some 15-year-old screaming racial slurs for 15 minutes straight? But if you don't like that some shit talking is taking place in a game and taking part in psychological warfare, just mute them. But at the end of the day, the golden age of voice chat are long gone. Now, voice chat wasn't the only thing that kept people playing. It was a mix of that, great playlists, and overall a complete multiplayer experience that kept people hooked for years to come. Atmospheric, orchestral, and grandiose. Those are things that describe Halo's music, and while Halo 3's soundtrack doesn't have the hard rock influence that I really loved about Halo 2's soundtrack, it is in no way lesser than 2's or CE's. Clearly soundtracks are made to intensify what the player is feeling during the story and gameplay, or to fill in gaps where everything would feel awkward without any sound, and I'd say Halo does this perfectly. It is hard to say what I haven't already said about Halo's music in my last two reviews. I mean, say what you say about Marty O'Donnell, but man can he make music. And obviously you can't forget Michael Salvatore. Halo 3's soundtrack has atmosphere, but also emotion. Story writing is one thing to get an emotional response from people, but a fitting soundtrack helps with that a ton. Not always though, there are movies and games where silence can be the key, but it depends on the circumstances. Halo story beats and action sections hit just that much harder because of the great soundtrack. And the gloomy music when Johnson died or the hopeful music when Chief and Arbiter find the replacement ring all fit perfectly. And my favorite cutscene in the whole game has this beautiful orchestral score like the rest of the game, but it is also a little bit more simple, so it lets the rest of the cutscene breathe a bit more. Action moments in the game also gain a lot from the music, whether you are blasting through Covenant in the crow's nest, smashing Flood into pieces in High Charity's infected tunnels, or driving for your dear life in the exploding replacement ring, it just works. Either way, Halo's music is absolutely gorgeous and fits the game perfectly, while voice acting and weapon sounds complete the sound of the game. Halo 3 is a great game with an amazing weapon and equipment sandbox design that was a step up from Halo 2. The equipment added another layer to combat, especially in multiplayer where they added more tactical thinking to the mix, and what comes to the multiplayer itself, thanks to the new 360 console and evolved Xbox Live, the matchmaking experience got a lot better. And with the addition of Forge and Theater, the Halo community got together to create more fun game modes and maps to play in, and Halo's content creation sphere became even bigger. Halo 3's campaign, on the other hand, was a small step down from Halo 2, at least in the story department. The gameplay is great with amazing level design with a mix of open and linear areas, taking things closer to CE's approach to level design, and with great vehicle sections all around. The campaign gameplay is a spectacular experience. While the story isn't crap, nowhere near it, some of it loses the almost movie-like storytelling of Halo 2, which is a bummer. And it was nice seeing the side of the Covenant through Arbiter, and the only time we see it in Halo 3 is when Johnson gets captured. But the story does bring to an end what was originally partially planned for Halo 2, and it nicely wraps up everyone's journey and leaves a little bit of space for continuation. And the ending message from Bungie is a beautiful touch to the fans that have been there during the trilogy. Sadly it was removed from the MCC version, and I do wish that 343 would add it back in for the sake of honoring the original devs, but it's highly unlikely. The music is also great, and it together with great voice acting brings the story beats and action moments beautifully together. The music still gives me chills to this day, and it's just an amazing soundtrack. Now, even though I'm gushing about Halo 3, it isn't a perfect game. No game is, and it isn't even the best Halo game unless you look at it really subjectively. I know that objectively Halo 2 story is better, but Halo 3 does some things better in my opinion, like the sandbox and level design. And even with its shortcomings, it is still my favorite Halo game, and game period. And that is mostly because of the nostalgia and the memories that I got with the game. Core memories, you could say. But the game does still hold up in the current year of 2022, and considering that the game's successful launch was pretty much a cultural event in itself, Halo 3 definitely deserves the appreciation that it has, and it was one hell of a way to finish the fight. Hi and thanks for watching. I always like adding these small rambly pieces at the end of my videos to kind of thank you guys who made it this far, because this video was a long one. And it also took a long ass time to make. It probably shouldn't have, but it's here now, so consider it a New Year's gift. Personally, I'm really proud of it, because I put a lot of effort into this. I'm pretty sure that I haven't put effort into a video project like this in a long time. So any type of feedback is greatly appreciated, so if you have anything to say about the video, please say it, so I really need some feedback and validation. So yeah, that's about it. There are some changes coming to this channel in the next year or so keep an eye out for that. Either way, Happy New Year, and hopefully next year won't be a catastrophe, and yeah, see you guys next time.